Dear students, in this unit we will talk about the evolutionary evidences based on molecular homologies. Ever since the scientists have explored the molecular aspects, or scientists have undergone at the molecular level of different organisms as well as the cells at their cellular level, more and more evidences of molecular or the evolution they have surfaced. Now, similarities and differences in biochemistry as well as molecular biology of various organisms, they are providing evidence for the evolutionary relationships among different organisms. Now, line of descent based on biochemical and molecular characters, they often resemble the line of descent based on the structural and fossil evidences of the organism. So this molecular biology or the molecular aspect has also helped the scientists to not only recognize the similarities between different organisms and species, but also the differences among them. Now, when we talk about the molecular evidences of evolution, we means that the evolution at the level of genetic code or the DNA. Now, as genetic code or DNA is a universal, it's a universal code which exists among different organisms, and it is conserved sequence along with the amino acid in proteins. So they often the similarities of in these protein as well as DNA often give rise to the evidences of evolution among different organisms. As protein and DNA contain a record of evolutionary changes among different closely related species, so it's very easy to supersede or to evolve these things according to the protein as well as DNA. Now, as you can see in this slide, that all living things, they have DNA. The more closely related two species are, the more similar their DNA sequences are. Now we know that mutations are the changes in the DNA which takes place with the course of evolution. So the more distant animals or the organism will have more differences in their DNA and in their protein as compared to the closely related species. Researchers have carried out thousands of comparisons of proteins as well as DNA sequences from various species during the past 25 years. Sequence-based relationships generally agree with the earlier studies in which we studied the relationship on the basis of structural homology or structural differences as well as the fossil record. Now, Darwin thought of the evolution as descent with modification, which means that species evolve, and during the course of evolution, they had certain mutation, they had certain changes, and those changes lead to the modification in the organisms. So it's a very famous notion of Darwin theory, the descent with modification. It's a process in which species change and give rise to new species over a course of several generations. He also proposed that evolutionary history of life forms a branching tree with many levels. It could be higher level, or it could be the similar or the lower levels, in which all species can trace back to an ancient common ancestor. Now, based on the molecular homologies and differences, evolution can be studied in a detail because a protein's amino acid sequence are coded in the DNA, and the differences in amino acid sequence and number of DNA base pairs which have been changed, they have occurred during the course of evolution. Now, not all DNA codes for the proteins. There are a lot of DNA. You can say that 95% of the DNA which does not code for proteins, it is known as junk DNA or you can say non-coding DNA. Now, changes also occurs in that portion of the DNA as well. So studying the mutation in the non-coding region as well as the coding region, which give rise to different proteins, these studies are useful in determining the evolutionary relationship between different organisms.